today I will be explaining about reproduction in organisms. So first you should know what is the definition of reproduction. Reproduction is a biological process where individuals will produce offspring of its own kind. That is nothing but reproduction in organisms. Now, what is the significance of reproduction, or what is the use of reproduction? The significance of reproduction is that it will help in continuation of species on this earth, that is on this biosphere. So it is responsible for continuation of species. That means if living being has to be existing on this earth, or if a species has to exist on this earth, so reproduction is the one that maintains them on this earth without being extinct. And you know that the species will disappear or become extinct. It is because of either human activities, or due to natural extinction, or due to lack of reproduction. So to maintain an individual, to maintain the species on this earth, it is necessary that there should be reproduction. So that is the significance of reproduction. Now there are two types of reproduction. One is asexual reproduction and sexual reproduction. The other one is sexual reproduction. So, asexual and sexual reproduction. So, what is the primary difference between them? In asexual reproduction, it is uniparental. It means single parent is involved in production of offsprings. Single parent is involved in production of offsprings, and that is called as uniparental. That is the nature of asexual reproduction. Now the second point is that since single parent is there, there is no formation of gametes. So no gametes are involved in asexual reproduction. Since there is no gametes, there is also no question of fertilization. So there is no fertilization. And also you should know that in asexual reproduction, one of the basis of asexual reproduction is mitosis. That is the cell division that is involved in asexual reproduction is mitosis. And offsprings formed in case of asexual reproduction, they are identical to the parents. Identical in terms of genetics, that is, means in terms of genetic material, they are identical. And also they are identical in terms of morphology. Now, if any offsprings are identical in terms of DNA as well as genetic material as well as morphology, such type of individuals are called as clones. And clones are common in asexual reproduction, whereas clones do not exist in sexual reproduction. So then next factor that is important, even in case of this asexual reproduction, is that asexual reproduction is rather a rapid process. It will occur very quickly. For example, bacterial cells will divide within 20 minutes. Okay. So like that, if you see in terms of time taken for a parent to form the daughter cells, it is very rapid. So these are the features of asexual reproduction, main points regarding asexual reproduction. Now on the other hand, sexual reproduction is biparental. So when I say it's biparental, it means there should be a female and male parent. So the offsprings will be produced due to presence of two parents. So it's called biparental. And of course, biparental, there is formation of gametes. Now gametes are nothing but sex cells there, and they are produced by the parent. In this, you know, there is a male gamete and next there will be a female gamete. And these process of formation of gamete is also called gametogenesis. So gametes are involved here in sexual reproduction. And since gametes are involved, fusion of gamete is called fertilization. So fertilization occurs in sexual reproduction. And what phenomena, what type of cell division occurs here in case of sexual reproduction is meiosis. Now meiosis is useful in production of gametes, whereas mitosis is during development, that is as embryogenesis and organogenesis occurs, that is early embryo stage, late embryo stage, then further development as it continues, that time mitosis becomes important. However, when male gamete fuses with female gamete, that phenomena you already know that it is a fertilization. And once the zygote is formed, that zygote actually undergoes initially a special type of mitotic division called cleavage. And later, as the embryo develops, the cells of the embryo will further divide by time. So reproduction or production of young ones involves both mitosis as well as meiosis. That means if the young ones has to be produced, that cannot be possible without gametes, and gametes cannot be possible without meiosis. And once the gametes have been fused and zygote is formed, without further special type of mitotic division called cleavage and without normal mitosis also, there cannot be any offspring production. So therefore it will be both meiosis as well as mitosis. And here in asexual reproduction, primarily it will be mitosis only. Now in asexual reproduction, offsprings will not resemble their parents. So there is no it means that offspring show variation. Exact resemblance is not there. That means certain features of parents can come to the offsprings, but they don't exactly resemble their parents. So that will be that they show variations. They do not resemble exactly, means what? They show variations when compared to parents. And these variations, however, comes at different levels. So therefore, you should know that sexual reproduction shows variations. Asexual reproduction exhibits a phenomenon called clones. Clones are offsprings of a parents who resemble exactly like that of a parents in terms of genetic material as well as morphology. And this is, but whereas offsprings of sexual reproduction always show variations. And variation is the raw material for evolution. Now you should know that sexual reproduction takes some time. It's a slow process rather than being a fast process. For example, when a fertilized egg will start developing, it can be either in the egg, in the oviparous animal it will be developing in the egg, and in viviparous animals it will be developing in the womb, taking the nourishment from the placenta. Now, whether it is incubation period during which the egg will hatch, or whether it is gestation period in higher animals, always it takes some time. Therefore, we say it is a slow process. Whereas, in case of asexual reproduction, the parent cell will divide into daughter cell rather very rapidly. So these are the main difference between asexual reproduction and sexual reproduction. Now I'll explain about asexual reproduction and its types. in asexual reproduction, the types will be, I'll be dealing with only the main types of asexual reproduction. So first one is binary fission. The second one is multiple fission. And third main type is budding, process of budding. So binary fission will occur, say in bacteria, it can occur in amoeba in favorable conditions, but amoeba can also exhibit multiple fission when there is an unfavorable condition. And multiple fission can be exhibited by, say, Plasmodium as well as amoeba. And budding can occur in yeast and in organisms such as Hydra. Budding can occur. Now, binary fission. In binary fission, single parent cell will divide and produce two daughter cells. So, since two daughter cells are formed, it is called as binary fission. Now the daughter cells are of same size. When you compare the size of the two daughter cells, the two daughter cells are of the same size, and they are identical to the parents morphologically and genetically. It can be now called as a clone, I told already, which I have explained already. So they are same in size. So what happens is, first the DNA material will, see if it is a bacteria, first DNA material will replicate, then followed by cytokinesis. And similarly in eukaryotes, first nuclear division occurs, followed by cytokinesis, that is cytoplasmic division occurs. Now based on in which plane the cytokinesis occurs, if it is in any plane, that kind of binary fission is called irregular. For example, amoeba, the division, the cytokinesis can occur in any plane. Okay. So that is irregular type of binary fission exhibited by amoeba. Then if the cytokinesis, if the plane is not irregular, but it is longitudinal plane also, it can occur. The plane of cytokinesis or division of the cytokinesis is longitudinal. It can occur in case of Euglena, where the plane of division will be longitudinal. Or if it can be transverse, the plane of the division of cytokinesis can be transverse like this in case of Paramecium. Or the plane of division can be oblique in case of Serratia. So like this, different organisms can show different planes in which the cytoplasm divides or cytokinesis occurs. And always, usually first the genetic material will form on two copies and further cytokinesis occurs. And that is what about binary fission. And you should know that amoeba exhibits both binary fission as well as multiple fission. Binary fission it exhibits under favorable condition, whereas multiple fission it exhibits under unfavorable condition. So and you should always know that binary fission, those organisms that undergo binary fission can be called as immortal. That means immortal is there is no death of an individual here. They are immortal because all the parental components are distributed equally between the two daughter cells. As a result, the parent is not actually dying, so it doesn't have a death. It becomes a part of daughter cells. So they are considered as immortal. On the other hand, multiple fission, they are not immortal, or you can say the parental cell undergoes death. Okay, they are not immortal. It means they are mortal. It means they undergo death. So in multiple fission, what exactly occurs is the single parent cell, of course, gives rise to, this is a very schematic representation, gives rise to many daughter cells. Now, which are those cells that exhibit multiple fission? I told amoeba, and one more very common. Each nucleus will take a small portion of cytoplasm along with it and is enclosed by a membrane like this. And then what happens is the parent cell gets ruptured. Now you can see that certain components of parent cells are lost here. So as a result, we say that they are not mortal because part of the parents is parent components are lost. But in case of binary fission, the parent components are distributed equally among the daughter cells. So this is about multiple fission. So now this is the multiple fission undergone by organisms like, as I told, Plasmodium. And initially the Plasmodium parent cell will increase in its size before undergoing nuclear division and further. These daughter cells will be released. Simultaneously they will be released. So all the daughter cells are almost simultaneously formed. So that is about the multiple fission. So next is budding. Now budding can occur in organisms like Hydra, or also it can be exhibited by eukaryotic organisms like yeast. Now Hydra can reproduce by the process of budding. On the body of the Hydra there are special regenerative cells that are capable of producing the dividing rapidly. Now these regenerative cells present in a particular region of Hydra, they start dividing rapidly, cell division occurs and an outgrowth is formed. And this outgrowth itself, now this becomes a parent body and this outgrowth becomes the bud. This outgrowth is called the bud. Now once the bud also develops tentacles and it becomes mature enough, then this bud will detach from the parent body and then undergo and produce the an offspring is formed. So this is nothing but budding process called as. So what is budding is a type of asexual reproduction where formation of buds occur. And what are buds? Buds are outgrowths from the parental body which can be formed in a particular region where regenerative cells are more, and those regenerative cells undergo rapid cell division to form an outgrowth called bud. It will mature, it will remain attached to the parent body to a certain extent till it will develop to a certain extent, and then once it will mature, it is independent enough or mature enough, it will detach itself from the parent body and reattach onto the substratum and finally grow into an individual. Okay. So this is how process of budding occurs. That is a type of asexual reproduction. Now budding can be two. One is internal bud, another one is external bud. External bud I have already shown. Since this bud is formed outside, attached to the parental body, and it is found outside, exogenous, so it's called as an external bud, which is exogenous in origin, which appears outside the body. But in sponges what happens? there are presence of internal buds. So in case of sponges, there is presence of internal buds. Now these internal buds are called gemmules. Now when a gemmule is formed, especially when there is an unfavorable conditions. Whenever there is unfavorable conditions, gemmules will be formed. So what is that unfavorable condition? See that there is not enough oxygen, or you can see there is a decreased nutrients, and warmth is not there, but instead sponges grow in warm water, but if the water is cold, these all conditions will make the sponge, will create in the sponge what kind of conditions? Unfavorable conditions. Because of which the gemmule starts forming inside the body of sponge. Now number of gemmules may vary. As the number of gemmules may increase, the parent body usually dies and the gemmules remain in water because they are highly resistant. The gemmules are very resistant, especially produced when the conditions are unfavorable. So once the favorable conditions return back, warm water instead of cold returns back, these gemmules can directly give rise to grow. These gemmules can grow and give rise to a sponges which can further grow and produce the complete individual. So this is what occurs in budding, and these are the three main types of asexual reproduction. So the main point which you should remember is binary fission is considered to be mortal, whereas multiple fission is not immortal. Here also, as there is a parental body death is occurring here, because the gemmule are increasing in number, parental body undergoes death. So here also you cannot tell that they are immortal. Here also what is there is they are not immortal, they are mortalized. So these are main types of asexual reproduction. Next is sexual reproduction. Next I will be explaining about sexual reproduction. Next is sexual reproduction. In that, first I will be explaining phases of sexual reproduction. Phases of sexual reproduction. Now in phases of sexual reproduction, there are three phases in that. First one is juvenile phase. The second one is reproductive phase. Reproductive phase. And the third one is senescent phase. So three main phases of sexual reproduction. Where do these three phases arise? During the lifespan of an individual. When I say a lifespan of an individual, it refers to the birth of an organism, say till its natural death. Because it is till its natural death. So it should not be an unnatural death, but rather natural death. So this constitutes what is called, this means that it is a lifespan, that is from time period between the birth and the natural death of an organism. Okay, so lifespan may vary. So as lifespan of mayfly may be for 1 day, or for fruit fly it can be for 2 weeks, like that. So it may vary. Always you should know that lifespan is never correlated with the size of an organism. For example, crow is there and parrot is there. Both of them are of same size, but their lifespan is quite different. For example, crow might live for 15 years, whereas parrot can live for 140 years. This indicates that there is no correlation between the size of an organism with that of lifespan. You cannot tell when the size is more, then lifespan can be more. So you cannot tell like that. There is no such correlation existing. So here in this juvenile phase, reproductive phase, and finally senescent phases will be present. Now juvenile phase. So in juvenile phase, in this phase, it is considered to be a growth phase actually. The organism grows during this time. It means there is an irreversible increase in the size of an organism during this time. So it is called as a, what will be occurring during this phase is the organism will be growing and it will be developing its reproductive capacity, but still the reproductive capacity is not developed. It means it is unable to produce offsprings during juvenile phase. It is just which phase? It is just the growth phase it is. Since this phase exists before reproductive phase, it is also called pre-reproductive phase. Also called pre-reproductive phase. And you should know that during this phase, organism will be growing. That is one point. Its reproductive systems will be developing, but it cannot gain the complete capacity to produce the offsprings. So that is about the juvenile phase. Then next one is reproductive phase. As the name suggests, it is also called maturity phase. And during this phase, an organism develops that capacity to produce the offspring. There is a reproductive maturity, so it develops the capacity to produce offspring. And therefore all those phenomena that are related to reproduction would be during reproductive phase. It can be production of gametes, okay. Ability to produce the gametes also will start during reproductive phase, and certain reproductive cycles that occur is also during reproductive phase, like estrous cycle or menstrual cycle. Even those are nothing but coming under the reproductive phase. So there is a reproductive maturity during this phase. Okay. Then coming to senescence. Senescence is end of reproductive phase marks the beginning of senescence. It means when reproductive phase ends, then comes what is called the senescent phase. This phase indicates the old age. Now what happens here is decline of activities occur. For example, physiological functions and physiological activity in the body will start declining, or you can tell start deteriorating, or you can tell degeneration sets in. Degeneration will start setting in. Now, during this process is also called irreversible aging. This irreversible aging is nothing but what is called the senescence, occurring in senescent stage. So here there is a slowing down of biochemical processes, biochemical reactions, or any physiological reactions, they start slowing down. So that is the sign of what is called the senescent phase in the sexual reproduction. So these are the phases. Now we should know what are those components that will help in transition from one phase to another. There are certain components that are very key and that are very important to for transition for an organism to move from juvenile phase to reproductive phase to finally senescent phase. And one of those important molecules that governs the transition between these three phases are nothing but hormones. So hormones play a key role, okay, to transit from one phase to other phase. It means that if an organism is juvenile phase, so throughout its lifespan it cannot be in juvenile phase. Instead, it has, after some period, like once it attains puberty. Okay, puberty is also nothing but occurring in reproductive. So organism will be passing, an animal will be in a juvenile phase. After some time, it will enter into puberty. It means it is transiting from juvenile phase to reproductive phase, and further it will reach to senescent phase. Then what are those molecules that will help it to move from one phase to another phase, or that will drive an organism from one phase to another phase? Is hormones. Give me an instance. In a juvenile phase, for example, in humans, there is very, the concentration of certain hormones like FSH, LH, or GnRH will be less. In the puberty, GnRH concentration increases, so also FSH and LH. Whereas in senescence, estrogen concentration will drop down. So there is hormone have some key role in transition from one phase to another phase. So these are the phases. And in humans, if you consider spermatogenesis, which will be active in which phase? Reproductive phase. In women, what happens? Development of gametes will stop around 45 years. But in male what happens? Spermatogenesis can continue even after 50 years. For some it may stop in 60 years, for some 70 years. It means that in male humans there is no very well marked, clear cut reproductive phase, whereas in female it is highly well marked. That is at the age of around 45 to 50, the gamete production stops. So clearly there what stops is reproductive phase stops, and what continues after that is senescent phase. So this was about phases of sexual reproduction, phases in sexual reproduction during lifespan of man. Now next I'll explain a term called sexuality of an animal. Sexuality of animal means what? So sexuality of animals, here comes unisexual animals. Then comes bisexual animals. Unisexual animals and bisexual animals. These two terms will come under what is called the sexuality of animals. Now unisexual animal means the male is separate and female is separate. It means to tell sexes are separated. That means rather we can tell there is, in terms of reproduction, we can tell that both male reproductive system is in a separate individual and female reproductive system is separate individual, means that the male is separate and female is separate, or you can just tell sexes are separate. As you can see in higher animals like mammals, including the human beings, sexes are separate. Now bisexual animals, here what happens, sexes are united. It means that male and female reproductive systems will be present in same individual. We mean to tell that means the testis as well as ovary will be present in the same individual, or we mean that sperms as well as ovum both will be produced by the same individual. In that case, we say that those type of animals are called as bisexual animals. Now bisexual animals are also called monoecious, whereas unisexual animals are called dioecious. There is one term associated with bisexual animals. It is also called hermaphrodite. The bisexual animals are also called hermaphrodite. So this was about the sexuality of animals. Next is events in sexual reproduction. Major events occurring in sexual reproduction. So events in sexual reproduction are three events. One is pre-fertilization event, another is post-fertilization event. తెలుస్తాయి about events in sexual reproduction. So first is pre-fertilization event. Events. Then fertilization itself. And third one is post-fertilization event. Now pre-fertilization event, post-fertilization event and fertilization event, etc. Now what all the events associated with pre-fertilization events? Which are those events occurring before fertilization? One is fertilization, as you all know, formation of zygote after fusion of gametes, that itself will be fertilization. Now fertilization cannot occur unless there is formation of gametes, that is male gamete as well as female gamete, and therefore formation of gamete will come under pre-fertilization. So gamete formation, gamete formation, gamete formation. Then another event, once the gamete are formed, they have to be transferred so that one gamete should fuse with its counterpart, that is the male gamete should fuse with the female gamete. So comes gamete transfer. Now gamete formation. You know what are gametes? They are sex cells. How are gametes formed? Gametes are formed by process called gametogenesis. Gametes are formed by the process called gametogenesis. Now in this, you have a male gamete and a female gamete. Now male gamete is called sperm and the female gamete is called ovum. Sperm as well as ovum. Now comes, by seeing into the structure of the male gamete and female gamete, comes additional two more terms, homogamete and heterogamete. Homogamete, when the male gamete is similar in structure like that of female gamete, we say that they are homogamete. That means they are very similar. That means you cannot differentiate between a male gamete and female gamete. You cannot find which is the male gamete, which is female gamete, you cannot trace out. So in that case, such type of gametes are called as homogametes, which is common in Cladophora. In higher animals like mammals, including we humans, the gametes can be easily differentiated. That means you can point out as to what is a sperm and what is a ovum. You can easily differentiate which is sperm and ovum based on its structure, because their structure is different. So such type of gametes which are different in the structure, they are called heterogamete. And most of the higher animals, ovum will be very large and non-motile, whereas sperms will be small and motile. So they are basically called heterogametes. Now gamete formation occurs. Formation of gamete is called gametogenesis, and they are produced by special kind of cells called gamete mother cells. So those gamete mother cells can undergo meiosis, and the cells that are capable of undergoing meiosis are called meiocytes. It means gametes are produced from gamete mother cells called meiocytes, which are capable of undergoing meiosis and produce daughter cells, and those daughter cells will be what? Gametes. So where do gametogenesis occurs? Gametogenesis occurs in gonads, sex organs called gonads, which is testis in the male and ovary in female. And you should know that gametes will be haploid, which is represented by N, and as you all know, diploid will be represented as 2N. Now next is gamete transfer. Now since most of the time ovum cannot move, they are not motile, then the sperm has to be transferred such that it will fuse with the ovum, and that is called as a gamete transfer. Okay. And gamete transfer can, if suppose the fertilization is external, gametes can be transferred directly into the medium, that is in water. For example, if it is fish, if it is amphibian, both sperm and ovum, both will, the egg or ovum, both will be released in the water. So transfer occurs in the medium itself. Or transfer can occur in further higher animals, like it might be reptiles or mammals. The sperms has to be introduced into female reproductive tract by use of copulatory organs. So that also helps in gamete transfer. So this is the events before fertilization. So without gamete transfer, it is not possible that the sperm will meet the ovum for fertilization to occur. Male sperms can be called as antherozooids, which are motile and very much smaller. Antherozooid. Female gamete can be of course called ovum or egg. So this completes some of the events in pre-fertilization events, that is gamete formation and gamete transfer. Next is fertilization, which is the key event in sexual reproduction, is fusion of sperm and ovum, an event called fertilization. Now next is fertilization. Now fertilization can be further divided into where the fusion occurs, that is external fertilization as well as internal fertilization. Since most of the points have already covered in pre-fertilization events during gamete transfer, that I would be again reiterating. So this is external fertilization and this is internal fertilization. Two types of fertilization. External fertilization, it is common in fish and amphibians. Fish and amphibians. Whereas internal fertilization in case of say reptiles, mammals, is all on internal fertilization. So external fertilization, however, fusion occurs here. Fertilization here means fusion of sperm with that of ovum. Fusion there in transfer will be occurring in medium, and of course when transfer is occurring in medium, fusion also occurs in a medium. So in case of external fertilization, fusion of sperm and ovum will be occurring in a medium. That means sperms and ovum will be released in the water, and therefore fusion occurs in water. So when they release, that is a gamete transfer will be occurring in the medium, and after transfer, whatever fusion occurs, even that occurs in the medium. So it is external fertilization. The next one is internal fertilization. Internal fertilization, it is not in the medium, rather the sperms will be deposited in female reproductive tract. Reproductive. And to deposit the sperms into female reproductive tract, the animals are supposed to have the copulatory organ for transfer of sperms. After transfer, after gamete transfer, what happens is the sperms are motile, so they move within the female reproductive tract till they fuse with the ovum. So it means that fertilization is occurring in the female reproductive tract. Fusion is occurring in the female reproductive. Fusion is occurring in the medium. And in case of gamete transfer, transfer is occurring in the medium and transfer occurs within the female reproductive tract. So this was about fertilization. Two of them based on what kind of animal it is: external fertilization and internal fertilization. And of course, even birds, fertilization is internal. Next is post-fertilization events. So, 2 points you should know in post-fertilization events. One is formation of zygote occurs. See, fusion is fertilization, but what happens after fusion is a single cell called zygote is formed. So therefore, formation of zygote is one of the events in post-fertilization. It's one of the post-fertilization events. And the second one is embryogenesis. Now, what is a zygote? How is it formed? Points which need to be known about it. Whatever points that I need you to know about the zygote. Zygote is formed. It is first of all you should know zygote is diploid, which is represented as 2n. As you all know, 46 chromosomes in humans is represented as 2n, and 23 is represented as n. Okay, it's represented as not equal to, it's represented as n. So this is in case of gametes, and this is in case of somatic cells. So zygote is a single cell. It's not a two-cell stage. It is a single cell stage, and it is diploid. Then consider that the sperm has been fused with the ovum, and after the nucleus of the sperm has entered, there is a fusion of both the nucleus to form a diploid zygote. This zygote will undergo further division to form two-cell stage, then asynchronously finally forms four-cell stage like that. Then it continues to form early embryonic stages. like blastula, gastrula. Now gastrula has 3 germ layers which are destined to form up at different parts of the body. They also continue to develop. From gastrulation, further embryonic development continues. That formation of embryo itself is embryogenesis. So here we need formation of embryo. Formation of embryo is called embryogenesis. Got it? So now based on how the zygote develops, again further the animals can be either oviparous, where egg-laying animals will be there. The fertilized egg is formed and develops into an embryo inside an egg itself. So egg-laying animals, or giving directly birth to young ones is called viviparous animals. So giving birth to young ones. So that is about how the development of the, based on how the zygote develops, you can divide the animal into oviparous animals or viviparous animals. So in oviparous animals, you can see that fertilization occurs inside and the egg is laid, but development, that is embryogenesis, occurs outside. Whereas in case of viviparous, fertilization occurs inside the body and even embryogenesis occurs inside the body. And you should know here, in viviparous animals, one of the important structure that provides extra nutrient to the developing embryo is the placenta. But the same placental structure is not there in oviparous animals. Okay. Then there is always an advantage of viviparous animals over oviparous animals. The advantage includes oviparous animals have less advantage compared to viviparous animals, because the eggs that are laid in the environment can be destroyed easily by predators, or due to some environment conditions the eggs can get destroyed, because of which again the chances of survival of offspring will reduce. Whereas in viviparous animals, the developing embryo or the developing individual inside the uterus is well protected and it is also getting extra nutrient from placenta. So as a result, survival chance of the offspring is higher in case of viviparous compared to oviparous animals. So this was about two of the further events within the post-fertilization event. One is formation of zygote, another is embryogenesis. Now consider this is a zygote. Now zygote undergoes division to form, initially the division is cleavage division and further mitotic division. So what is occurring here is cell division is occurring. So as zygote divides, what phenomena is occurring is cell division is occurring, whether it is cleavage or whether it is mitosis. Now as division continues and as blastula is formed and as even gastrula and germ layers are formed, some of the cells will start differentiating there. It means that they start getting different functions, different structures, they start changing, and that phenomena is called cell differentiation. So how a zygote forms an embryo is two events, cell division as well as cell differentiation. And cell differentiation, you know, of course cell growth also. Cell division, cell differentiation is cell growth. And what is cell differentiation is, cell will start changing its structure as well as function. It starts differentiating and starts acquiring a different function and different structure. In that case, we say that the cell is getting differentiated. So that is the basis of what? Embryogenesis. How the zygote forms embryo. Now, as embryogenesis continues, what happens is organ starts forming in the individual, in an organism. Organ starts forming, and formation of organs is called organogenesis. And the last concept, which I would like to end based on which I would like to end only on a definition, is parthenogenesis. If an ovum directly develops without the requirement of sperm, if the ovum directly develops into an embryo and finally an individual or an offspring, then we say that phenomena as parthenogenesis. And parthenogenesis is common in honeybee.